Well, hello there, I'm Doireann Mc Dermott and you're watching Dukascopy TV. Well, if you are a trader, this is the perfect program for you, as each week Jean-François of Owczarczak comes into the studio and has a look at some pairs and sees how they are trading. Welcome back.
Thank you, Darren. And now we're back on our Dukascopy directory with live prices provided by Dukascopy. And we're going to have a look at the hourly charts for the dollar rates.
Great. We're going to begin with the euro dollar.
Yes.
And you have been quite bearish on the euro dollar for some time now, and it actually still remains in negative territory. Now, what are we seeing?
Well, we're going to first have a look at the hourlies. And so here you have the hourly charts on the biggest dollar pairs. And you have here the Aussie, the euro, the pound, and the New Zealand dollar. And as you see, well, this is an hourly, so it has a vision of about 1 or 2 weeks ahead. And for the time being, they're still trending down. So we're going to focus on the euro and get a closer look at it. Look at the euro here. Now you have our three frequencies: the long term, the weekly, the medium term, the daily, and the hourly, the shorter term. And well, the weekly has been in a sideways move for quite some time. So it's been oscillating a bit between slightly bearish to slightly bullish. But what we can see now, it's in a correction up, and basically that correction up, the potential was done pretty much in 2011, and now we're moving down, and it's just waiting to accentuate or for the trend to turn down again. Now if we look at the dailies, well, dailies is the perspective over the last few months and over the next few months. And if we look here, well, it's in a bear trend, and this bear trend is showing us that the targets are quite aggressive towards the low 120 mark. And that is about a 2 or 3 months time horizon. If you look at the beam here, it still has a bit of time to go.
Okay.
Now, what was interesting is that we did a very important top here, where you had our two envelopes touching each other, and also our risk oscillator, which was in the red, the risk index. And you did see a new top, a lower new top here, with the risk indicator making it in red again, fueling this new downtrend move that we're seeing at the moment. Now, if we switch to the shorter term, now the hourly, well, this probably, if you look here, that's about a week here from the 15th to the 20th, so there's another week and a half to 10 days to go. It's already quite oversold on the risk index, but it hasn't turned yet, and you don't see stress on the envelopes yet. And you still have about, as said, 10 days to go, and the target is towards the 127 level. Well, that's for the investor's view. Now, if we go shorter term to the trader's view, the trader's view shows a 60-minute chart, a 15-minute chart, and a 4-minute chart. And basically, well, you look at the 60 minutes, it's in a bull, and what we call a correction up. And this correction up has a target zone which was barely reached last week, and could possibly already be finished. Now, we would really have to make it above 129.71 to fuel a new uptrend. So for the time being, it's only a correction up, and it's having difficulties at the moment. And that seems to be confirmed by the 15 minutes, which is in a downtrend again, and with targets showing us towards low 28, high 27 levels, and the 4-minute chart, which has been moving lower. It's probably very short term reaching our targets. Now we're at 14 hours 30 CT, so we can see a slight correction here, but we're still moving down here on the 15 minutes.
Great. So that's it. Now we're going to have a look at the cable now.
Yes.
It's pretty much quite similar.
It is.
So tell me what's going on.
If you see here, it's a very similar move between both of them. Now we'll go on to the investor's view. Well, cable, shorter term, quite a sideways too, but pointing down, and with some quite aggressive targets. Well, now we're counting in quarters here on the weekly, so it's quite a long-term perspective. Now, to focus on the closer on the closer time horizon, let's look at the daily, and that's the horizon of the next few months. Well, we had a correction up, we reached its target, and now we're moving lower again. The envelopes haven't turned yet, so we're still in the bull, but basically the potential for this correction has been done. So we're waiting for it to roll over. And if we look at the hourly, it has already started this move, as we showed already last week and the week before. And we still have here to another week and a half, 2 weeks to go, and the target is just below the 150 level. It's getting a bit oversold, but we don't have stress yet on the envelope, so maybe an intermediate correction, but the trend is still down. Now, as with the euro, we'll go to the short-term view with the trader's view. And the trader's view is a 60 minutes, 15 minutes, 4 minutes. We also would have the 60 seconds, 15 seconds, 5 seconds on a super scalper's view on a streaming basis, but that's very short term. So now we're focusing here on the trader's view. And what we could see is that we did have a correction up as with the euro, but the trend has already turned down again. We've reached initial targets down, so are we going to be able to initiate an impulsive target? It's possible over the next hours or so, but for the time being we've pretty much reached the potential down on the 60 minutes, but the 15 minutes is telling us that there's more to go over the short term, and so the targets here are in the low 151 levels, which still seems to be confirmed by the 4 minutes, which is also still heading down. Now let's go back to the mosaic.
Okay.
And I think we wanted to have a look at the Australian dollar.
Yes. Now, it did actually edge kind of higher today after the RBA minutes, but on a general scale, many are wondering how low, it can actually go. In terms of this, what do you think, and how low do you think it can actually reach?
Well, as you see, as with the other two pairs, you've had a huge sell-off. It seems to stem from a bit further out. And so let's have a look at the investor's views perspective. Well, the weekly, also much of a sideways. We had a lot, it's very a toppy formation. Our envelopes have pretty much flattened out, although they're slightly still bullish. The targets had been done over the longer term. Again, in weeklies we counted in quarters. And you see that there's been a lot of stress points. Here, stress point, here, stress point. That's when both envelopes touch each other. And we had the major top here with the oscillator topping out in 2011. So we're just waiting to confirm this downtrend on the longer term, and if it does confirm the downtrend, the potential over the next quarter/years could be quite important. But now let's focus over the next few months using the daily. And basically daily is heading down. The move doesn't seem over. There's still about 2 months to go. If you look here, our target time zone is about 2 months away. We're probably close to the higher targets of this zone, around the 97.47, but we think it could go below 95. So there's another 2-3% risk there over the next few months. Now, are we getting towards an intermediate correction? Well, we're at stress. Both envelopes touch each other. The price even went out of the envelopes, and we're here in the green zone. So, it's getting an exaggeration, but you really need to see it started to turn. To see any potential up, and we don't see that at the moment. So over the next few weeks, I'd suspect it's probably not quite over yet. And if we look at the hourly, the hourly points to another 10 days, 2 weeks, and targets which could make it down to the low 95 levels. So this move is not quite over, although it's very much oversold, which basically triggered this small correction up, but it's still bit more to go over the next 2 weeks. Now, if we quickly go to the trader's view to see what's happening this week, well, this correction up that you were talking about is here. We pretty much reached his lower boundaries, so it could be finished. And so now we might see a rollover of it over the next few days, and that would be confirmed if the corrective targets of the 15 minutes were able to make it below our corrective targets here. So 97.60, below that you would be seeing a new impulsive move down, and so resumance of the trend down of the Australian dollar, and in this respect finishing off this correction up and continuing the move that we saw on the investor's view.
And I think that's it for that one. Now we are going to have a look also at the dollar Swiss franc.
Yes, because we were quite bullish on it over the last few weeks, so just want to expand on that. And basically, you have 3 bulls on the weekly, on the daily, and on the hourly. And so longer term, it took a lot of time to really accelerate. So there's not much time left, but still, we could make it back up to the 110, 120. Yeah. But that's also counted in quarters and years, so there's a bit of time towards that. But it seems like we're in the right direction. Now, if we look at the daily, you have a target here over the next 2 months, and it could bring us back to parity.
Okay.
And that's pretty much, this acceleration seems to be leading us that way. And then on the hourly, Well, we could slowly be getting towards an intermediate top. The 197.70 here were the top of the targets. It doesn't seem quite over though, but also, as with the other currencies, give it another week or two, and we should be on to an intermediate top. Now, trader's view, well, we pretty much reached the potential here. The correction was very, very sideways, so not very strong, and it seems like the 15 minutes is already accelerating, and if it could make it back above the corrective target, you'd see a new acceleration up. Now, just wanted to have one last look at gold, because we've spoken a lot of it over the last few weeks.
Gold is always an interesting one. It's one of my favorites to look at.
Well, and it's a lot of things were happening over the last month or so. So, what we were saying is that we had this huge sell-off about a month ago now.
Yes.
Maybe a month and a half now. And we had been in a consolidation for quite some time, and we had corrective targets around the 1500. Well, we broke through them. And once you break through corrective targets, our impulsive targets show on the screen. And that, again, is maybe 2 quarters away, maybe a year away, but it opens the door to quite a lot of risk. I mean, the impulsive targets on gold here are between 1178 and 967. So there's a lot of risk there. And you can see here, well, the oscillators are not in the green yet, and we're not even near the envelopes touching each other. So, I mean, that's just is there to show us that watch out on gold, because over the longer term, it's you bit of a middle of in the middle of a range with an impulsive move on the go. Now, shorter term, you may be close to an intermediate bottom. You've reached the green levels here. You've had already one stress, a second one. We thought this move was not over and that it still had time to continue into the target. It seems like there's still a bit of time running for it still, so we don't think of a stabilization yet. At least, well, the targets show us 1354, so that's probably, well, that means probably retesting lows once again. Now, if you look at the weekly again, you'd probably be going lower.
Yeah.
Now, the shorter term is the hourly, and the hourly, well, this move has been going on for quite some time. It's probably not quite finished yet. It's slowly getting into the green, but the targets over the next week or so have the volatility is sufficient to justify targets below the 1300. So it's still too early to jump into gold, and there's a lot of long-term risk. So we'll let this move continue over the next few weeks still.
Perfect. Thanks for a nice look this week, and we'll be back again next week to have a look at some more. Well, thank you very much, Jean-François.
Thank you for having me.
Well, viewers, that is it for right now, but Jean-François will be back next week to have a look at some of these pairs again, so do join us then. Goodbye for now.